Jean Bernard Léon Foucault has become a prominent talking point of heliocentric globe crusaders, whom have often invoked his name in discourse as if to conjure up within themselves the angelic spirit of the snake oil salesman himself. Foucault is the man awarded credit for simultaneously proving the Earth's rotundity and rotation, providing two separate yet closely related proofs in the 19th century, i.e., Foucault's pendulum and the gyroscope, both of which were claimed to demonstrate these features or phenomena of the Earth with definitive mathematical regularity. In this video, of which will consist of 3 parts, I seek to shed light on the alarmingly disingenuous proofs and or arguments that are oft used by preachers of the orthodox educational system. Those people who deem it fit to take for granted the indoctrinatory textbooks that have inundated them since adolescence with unquestioning belief, much the same as any zealous practitioner of any other religion. This is the blind leading the blind. The first 2 parts will address the claims of Foucault and provide video proof of my statements. The third and final video will be a segment of a recording taken from a chat group called Red's Rhetoric, where prominent globe proponents such as the YouTube channel known as Fight the Flat Earth are known to congregate. The inclusion of this third and final part is a rather unsettling view into the phenomenon known as the Dunning-Kruger effect. A clip which could easily and very well should be included in future case studies of this hypothetical psychological phenomena. I will let that clip speak for itself when the time comes. For now, I'll return to Foucault's pendulum. For this first part, the video clip included will suffice with no further explanation.
Morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Flat Earth School. The school that is all around us 24/7 since the beginning of existence. I'm Mitchell from Australia and I'm back here live at Science Space in Wollongong, the home of the Earth rotation debunking Foucault pendulum.
Recap from my first visit, we confirmed that the globe claims that we are standing on the rotating Earth. Therefore, we see the pendulum change direction to a tune of 8.5 degrees per hour anti-clockwise. So over 4 hours, the globe predicted that the Foucault pendulum would deviate 34 degrees. The observation of the Foucault pendulum started at 9:11 AM. By 10:11 AM, we observed that the pendulum had still not deviated at all. The globe predicted that it would have deviated in that first hour 8.5 degrees anti-clockwise. 11:33 AM, after 2 hours, the globe predicted that the pendulum should have deviated 17 degrees. After 3 hours, at 12:10 PM, the globe predicted the pendulum should have deviated a total of 25.5 degrees. But still 0 deviation was observed. And finally, after 4 hours, at 1:16 PM, if the Earth were actually rotating underneath this pendulum, the globe claimed that it should have deviated 34 degrees anti-clockwise, but no deviation was observed. So I then formulated a modus tollens valid logical argument. If P, then Q. Not Q, therefore not P. If the Earth we are standing on is rotating, then we will see the pendulum change direction. Over 4 hours, we do not see the pendulum change direction at all. We don't see the pendulum change direction, therefore Earth is not rotating.
This has come back here by Mr. Sensible to take a 4-hour video of this Earth rotation debunking Foucault pendulum. Now I've been called a liar, people have said that the pendulum absolutely does show the rotation of the Earth, that I just edited things together, that the Foucault pendulum absolutely will work. Well, my claim is that the Foucault pendulum inside this building here does not show the rotation of the Earth. Now let's go in and have a look, shall we?
Now, much to my surprise, I didn't even have to wait 4 hours to prove my claim. The museum had already proven it for me. After being absolutely inundated by people's phone calls and emails asking why their Foucault pendulum does not work, the museum had no other choice but to go into damage control and close their exhibition, fully confirming my claim that this Foucault pendulum did not demonstrate the rotation of the Earth.
Having seen the rather laughable reality behind the Foucault's pendulum, I would have the viewer understand that this supposed proof provided by Foucault is treated by any and every source with complete lack of scrutiny. Indeed, this is the whole point of this video. The definition of discernment is as follows, quote, "The act or process of exhibiting keen insight and good judgment," end quote. Discernment is the quality which has been completely and utterly stripped from the masses of society, who instead have been taught to, quote, "follow the science," end quote. Not to engage in the science or to contribute to the science or to progress the science, but simply to follow the science. We as a people have been given official outlets for all things educational. We have been taught since adolescence to trust these official outlets because what they say is true. Need you worry your little head not about the validity or the material that stems from these outlets? Other people, more educated, more qualified, experts even, have already verified the information for you. In fact, if you don't follow the science as they say, you're very likely to immediately become an outcast from the gregarious, couchant herd mentality of society.
By the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
Now, for the second part of this video, I will briefly address the gyroscope. Thereafter, I will commence the video, which will expand a bit further upon the subject, finally culminating with video of the claims of Foucault being put to the test. A gyroscope has two primary defining properties, rigidity in space and precession. Due to rigidity in space, when spun up, the gyroscope will maintain its plane of rotation, but the axis will precess over time due to internally or externally applied torque, that is, rotational or twisting force. Another name for rigidity in space is axial parallelism, and it is used in reference to the globe model of the Earth, where the claim is that the Earth more or less maintains its axial orientation in space as it orbits the Sun. More or less in that precession is also used in the globe model, where it is given over to the supposed tendency of the Earth's axis to precess through the 12 constellations over a period of 25,920 years, giving rise to the phenomenon known as the precession of equinoxes. Due to a gyroscope's rigidity and tendency to maintain its plane of rotation, Foucault claimed that the Earth's rotation would cause an unerring precession of the gyroscope at a rate varying with the latitude of the apparatus. This, in turn, would cause the heading on a compass card to drift by some number of degrees with regularity. The equation of the scenario to figure out how much drift would manifest upon the compass card is given as the sine of the latitude times 15 degrees for the expected gyroscopic drift rate over a period of 60 minutes, divided by 4 for a period of 15 minutes. The direction of drift should alter per hemisphere. In the northern hemisphere, the direction of drift should be clockwise, and the southern hemisphere counterclockwise. This video clip that I will play is from a much longer dissertation on the action of gyroscopes where Rob Durham, from whom I've taken this video, does an amazingly deep dive into mechanical gyroscopes with a 2-hour-long video of non-stop, hands-on experiments and explanations into his proceedings. The first part will be a Navy aviation educational piece from the 1960s, which was shown to all aviators and which explained the 3 separate mechanical gyroscopes featured in flight. This will culminate in turn with Rob demonstrating the reality of the directional gyro, or heading indicator, that is used in aviation. The thing that most videos leave out of explanation is that gyroscopes undergo 2 types of drift, mechanical and apparent. Apparent drift is given over to the hypothetical Earth rotation. Mechanical is induced by internal friction of the apparatus itself, within the bearings of multiple gimbals that the gyroscope is mounted within. This is to say clearly that there is a completely internal drift which is cumulative, that is to account for the precession of the gyroscope. It is also known that factors such as altitude and temperature and even electromagnetic fields will have an effect on the gyroscope as well. Here's that video.
Really try and get it into my head, everything that he's saying. So I'm going to play certain parts of it now, and I'm going to be commenting on certain parts of it and analysing certain parts of it, just to put you in the picture as to where I am at with the whole gyroscope thing.
Modern high-performance aircraft require electric gyroscopic instruments. The turn and slip indicator, the attitude indicator, and the directional gyro. This film will explain the theory of operation of some of the newer electric gyroscopic instruments. To understand any gyroscopic instrument, you must understand the principle of the gyroscope. It consists of a rotor mounted in a gimbal. The rotor can spin in one plane only. When another gimbal is added, a second plane of movement is possible. And when this assembly is mounted in bearings, the rotor has 3 planes of movement and can assume any possible attitude. This is now a freely mounted gyroscope. A spinning gyro has 2 important properties: precession and rigidity in space. All of its practical applications are based on these 2 properties. Another disadvantage comes from the gyro's tendency to drift away from its original attitude. There are 2 types of drift. One is mechanical, due to friction in the bearings. The other type, known as apparent drift, relates to rigidity in space. Once again, consider this condition. The gyro maintains its attitude while the Earth turns under it. Every 6 hours, the gyro drifts through 90 degrees in relation to the Earth's surface.
Okay, I've got to stop it there because this is where a lot of confusion arises. So you can clearly see by the video here that he is talking about gyros located at the equator. You can see Antarctica there. So those gyroscopes are located along the equator. And you'll also note that it is a vertical gyroscope, at least in its starting position. It has to be vertical and it has to be on the equator for the 90 degrees in 6 hours to occur. If it's at any other latitude, then a different amount of apparent drift is said to occur.
The aircraft heading is indicated here, and the reciprocal heading here. To obtain this information, the instrument uses a freely mounted gyro. Property of rigidity, the spin axis of the gyro will hold its attitude as the aircraft and instrument case turn about it. Secured to the outer gimbal is a gear. Its teeth mesh with the teeth of another gear, to which the compass card is attached. Before it can indicate correct headings, the compass card must be set to the heading of the aircraft as indicated by the magnetic compass. The push-to-cage knob is used to make the setting, after which the gyro controls the compass card. Assume the aircraft makes a 90-degree turn. The instrument case turns around the gyro and lower gear. As a result, the vertical gear makes a quarter turn as it travels around the lower gear. So the compass card also makes a 90-degree turn. In this instrument, apparent drift causes the compass card to drift away from its heading about 3 degrees every 15 minutes. In this instrument, apparent drift causes the compass card to drift away from its heading about 3 degrees every 15 minutes. In this instrument, apparent drift causes the compass card to drift away from its heading about 3 degrees every 15 minutes. And so, every 15 minutes, it must be reset to the magnetic compass heading.
So this 3 degrees of drift every 15 minutes seems to be a universal doctrine taught to all pilots worldwide since at least 1960 when this video was made. The thing is, the pilot is never taught to be mindful of which direction the drift will occur in. You see, if apparent drift caused by the rotation of the Earth was actually happening, the drift, or the direction of the drift, would undoubtedly manifest as a definite bias in one direction depending on which hemisphere you're in. Mechanical drift caused by friction in the bearings is a cumulative phenomenon and occurs as a result of constant attitude adjustments in an aircraft. If an aircraft flies straight and level and makes no adjustments at all, then no mechanical drift can occur since there is no movement in the gimbal bearings and therefore no friction is generated. From personal experience, witnessing the directional gyro drift in both directions during the same flight in the same hemisphere, I can say with absolute certainty that there is no bias in any one direction, which would absolutely be necessary if gyroscopes were remaining rigid in space with the Earth spinning under them. Furthermore, pilots operating around or near the equator should have experienced no apparent drift at all. But are they taught this? No, they're taught 3 degrees every 15 minutes like everyone else, and that is because they will likely experience a drift of 3 degrees every 15 minutes like everyone else, because that's the tolerance for mechanical gyros with spinning rotors.
Teardown of the directional gyro air-powered. So we've now got the gyro on a stationary, flat, level surface, and it's connected to the air supply that goes outside. I've got a timer ready for 15 minutes, and I put a piece of tissue here so that you can see that the thing is constantly working and air's being expelled. It's coming out the side here. So I'm just going to quickly show you the compressor, and this might kick in again in a minute. It's really noisy, so apologise if it does. But we've got it set to 1.3 bar. In fact, it's lost a little bit, so I'm going to turn that back up. Better. And that'll just keep kicking in and out as it loses pressure. I'll try and close the door as best I can. Keep some of the noise out. So, just to give it a bit of a demonstration. Okay. Now we must cage it at the start of the duration test. So, it's caged. I'm going to just cage it again for good measure. And let's start the clock. So what should actually be happening during this experiment is that this should be moving clockwise as viewed from above at a rate of 3 degrees every 15 minutes at my location, and this should also be leaning over like this. Obviously I've exaggerated it there, but that is what should be happening. Just a quick demo of it working. I've just spun it up and took the case off. And cage it again. If I apply a small amount of pressure onto this bottom gimbal, you can see it precessing there. So this cage knob resets it back parallel to the instrument itself. So it's important that we cage it before we do the test. So during straight and level flight, this whole setup here is not experiencing any friction on any of the bearings, only perhaps on the spin axis bearings of the spinning rotor itself, but that doesn't induce any mechanical drift. It's only the gimbal bearings that induce the mechanical drift. So in straight and level flight, nothing is moving, so no friction is being generated. If the pilot makes a maneuver that induces some sort of movement onto any of either this axis or this axis, it will result in a cumulative build-up of drift caused by all the friction. And this is exactly what the 3 degrees of drift every 15 minutes is for on every single gyroscope, no matter where it is on the Earth. So by not allowing it to move, i.e. testing it as we are doing on this flat level surface, we are not allowing any mechanical friction to induce onto any of these bearings. So if we eliminate mechanical friction or mechanical drift, all that should be left is apparent drift, which of course is what we're testing for right now.
So it seems to me like this would be the easiest experiment to perform in the classroom, to demonstrate the spin of the Earth to children. The experiment's very simple. You set the gyroscope spinning at the beginning of the class, and these gyroscopes could be easily mass produced in this day and age using electric motors. And you would give the student a map and get them to locate their current position on the map, find their latitude, then give them the sine formula to calculate the drift angle, get them to plot it on a graph over time, and this will obviously produce a sine wave. What better way to combine geometry, geography, maths, science, orbital mechanics, and obviously they will be able to check their result and check their calculations by reading off the angle on the gyroscope. But of course, nothing like this is ever done, and I think I'm beginning to see why. Unless, of course, I've got the only directional gyroscope in existence that doesn't register apparent drift. I mean, maybe I should donate it to a gyroscope manufacturer and get them to study it and see if they can replicate it as to why it's not showing apparent drift. If it's such a problem, then, you know, just study this one and replicate it. Problem solved. Anyways, I put a challenge out there a while ago for anybody to come up with a video demonstrating, with any correlation at all to their position on this Earth, any apparent drift whatsoever. And as far as I know, nobody has come up with anything. We've had lots of people coming up with no movement on their gyroscopes, but nobody demonstrating anything that resembles movement in any shape or form. So the challenge still remains, and I'm not talking about ring laser gyros or anything of that ilk. I'm specifically talking about the types of gyroscopes that Leon Foucault and the US Navy claim show apparent drift. Anyways, I'm going to sign off now and leave you to watch the rest of the video. It goes on for 15 minutes, this experiment. But spoiler alert, it doesn't move. I hope you've enjoyed watching the video as much as I've enjoyed making it. I'll be back with another video hopefully soon. Cheers, folks.
Not a single degree of drift. Funny enough, this is what happens time and time again when somebody simply puts the claim to the test. No alterations, extreme honesty, extensive knowledge put into application, no what-ifs or false imaginary allowances, no leaving out of failed experiments. This is the end result. The claims fail time and time again. Again, the definition of discernment, once more, quote, the act or process of exhibiting keen insight and good judgment, end quote. It is a quality that we all need to reinstate within ourselves. Now for the final video.
First, remember, it is a Reds Rhetoric Hangout, so I do apologize beforehand for the language and childlike behavior.
You are looking at a drone flight at 1,638 feet with the picture actually compressed left to right. And there is your curvature over water.
So basically what we're looking at here is curvature.
Yes, curvature over water. Water sticking to the exterior of a spinning ball.
This is a processed fucking image from a drone that has the ability to be squished and looked at and scrutinized in a way that looking at shit with the naked eye you cannot fucking do with. Ranty, this is a image that's been compressed. The very moment that you're able to do that with the naked eye, maybe then you'll have reason to call bullshit on Neil deGrasse Tyson. But the thing is that we're able to do things with images that we can't do with naked eye observations. Like, for example, squish them so that we can make any curvature that is there drastically more dramatic so we can actually see it.
Okay, Mr. Ranty, this is the original image from the, well, a screenshot from the drone flight. It was a video in its original size. And all we do is grab this right edge and say, squish. This allows us to see curvature in a very unique way. Let's bring that back to the center so we can zoom in on it now. Now, if the horizon is truly flat, it will remain flat the whole way through.
Ooh, curvature.
Curvature. Eat a dick.
Curvature.
Does look a bit like curvature, doesn't it?
Curvature.
Curvature.
Anchovies. Why? Anchovies!
Curvature.
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 Curvature. Curvature.
So here's a perfectly flat, straight, horizontal surface that I have taken a picture of. I've uploaded this and put it into Paint. Now then, when I take this completely flat, completely straight horizontal line and compress it, do you see the result? And it's just more dramatic the more you compress it. It becomes more and more curved. These are the types of disingenuous arguments that heliocentrists use. You need to be careful about who you're listening to. These people will lie to you, blatantly lie to you. It should, by this point, be abundantly clear to anyone that is interested in figuring out the truth of the situation that the truth will not be given by the blind. Those individuals, the blind, are abhorrently unaware of the totality of the situation that they themselves are placed within. They think this topic unworthy of themselves, and quite frankly are closer to children arguing with adults.
Ooh, curvature.
Curvature. Eat a dick.
Curvature.
Does look a bit like curvature, doesn't it?
Curvature.
Curvature.
This situation that we are within, the scope of the deceit that has been enacted upon humanity, is not something that is going to be immediately understood by just about anyone. It takes time and rigorous study to truly get a grasp, and only then a grasp on the situation. It is madness to think that these heliocentric crusaders understand the situation. They do not. Tasking these people to give accurate information on a situation they don't understand is like tasking a 10-year-old to present you with a thesis on ideal socio-political governance. The Dunning-Kruger effect is typically defined as being manifest when an individual with limited knowledge or skill overestimates their abilities. I feel it fair to state that Red's rhetoric is the most unsettling example of blatant Dunning-Kruger effect at play on grown men whom have resorted to distorting images, cackling amongst each other while doing so, and repeating each other like SpongeBob anchovies. Learn to be analytical and questioning. Much love.